Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast, presented by Prize Picks. No, friends, I am not Paul Shaughnessy. I am Pat Mayo. Paul is off this week, so I'm stepping up and in for Paul as we break down UFC 292, try to get the right bets, maybe try to hit every fight on the card, because that would be really nice, because I'm actually going to bet it this week because I'm on the show. I would like to win by listening to Cody, and if you use code DOP at prizepicks.com, you get a deposit match of up to $100. I'll try to put together a triple P, Pat's Prize Picks. I was going to say that other P, but they told me not to say that P. Is it? You know, it's not overs and unders. It's higher and lowers when you get to Prize Picks. We'll try to find some good props for you up there as well. Cody Saftic, you were involved in, I want to say, my favorite Twitter exchange of all time last week, and I just stumbled across it, and it was amazing. And I know that you use Twitter for like 3 hours a week, which I got to tell you is like very enviable. But do you know what I'm talking about, by the way?
Yeah, 100%. The guy was talking to me, telling me about me.
Yeah, like Cody Saftic said that. Oh wait, I put on my hat. So in case people are not like familiar with me, I'll make them pretty familiar and like try to get Paul's hat down. Is that about right for Paul?
Or is it they always complain in the comment section about about Paul's hat. Either it's crooked or it doesn't fit him properly. But I noticed if you do go to the comment section, lot of people are on to Paul and his hat game, to be honest with you.
Like they're on to it, like they like it, or they like he should wear it like this, like he's watching Recess in the mid-90s.
Yeah, basically. I think they want answers more than anything.
I mean, that could work out. LeagueSafe.com, by the way. If you have a friend who's going to steal all your money in a fantasy league, don't let him do that. Use LeagueSafe instead. That's where you keep your money safe. I'm going to put this up behind us here in a second. Let's talk about the main event. Get right into it. Aljamain Sterling is a, what is he here? Minus 260 favorite. Sean O'Malley plus 220 over 4.5 rounds is juiced up to plus 150 right now. What do you make of the fight?
Yeah, well, I think you got to go with Aljamain Sterling. He's currently the champion, obviously, of the division, and he's got like a good run going. He's got most consecutive title defenses at bantamweight. He's tied with most defenses, most consecutive wins. When he's beating these guys, it's, maybe not the most entertaining performances for the casual fans, but I think for the purists, he's just dominating them. His grappling seems to be a notch above. His wrestling seems to be a notch above. His speed's a notch above. Striking, yeah, he's an excellent striker, but again, so high with the ring IQ that he's not just going to get lulled into these stupid striking exchanges. So a lot of the time when you're going to dominate people, not saying that people are just going to hate you, but they're going to find you boring. People found Georges St-Pierre boring. He just lay and praise these guys. People found Khabib Nurmagomedov boring in the early portion of his career. He just lays in these guys. People find John Jones boring. Oh, he just stands at range and picks them apart. But those are some of the greatest guys ever. Not just the best action fighters, but like the all-around legends of the game. So with Aljamain, it's hard to hate on him too much. O'Malley, meanwhile, is just an excellent character. He's a fan favorite. He's an entertainer. He dyes his hair. He talks all type of nonsense. And for the most part, he does back it up in the cage. He's an excellent striker. He moves well. He trains out of a very good gym in Arizona, the MMA Lab, with excellent coaching and excellent training partners. So he generally does come in shape. He's long for the division. He hits hard. And he's also kind of like unorthodox. So it's hard for opponents to get a read on him. If this was a straight kickboxing match, again, Aljamain Sterling's a little bit faster in my opinion. His punches are a lot straighter, a lot more linear. Like maybe he can do well against O'Malley in striking exchanges. But if it's a kickboxing match, yeah, O'Malley's going to have plenty of opportunities to land the heavier punches. He's got more knockout power. He's got equal amounts of power in his left and right hand, and he kicks pretty hard as well. So I could see if that was the case, yeah, O'Malley could be considered the better striker than Aljamain Sterling. But this is an MMA fight, and you're allowed to wrestle. And if that's the case, I just feel like Aljamain Sterling is able to get him down when he wants, out-grapples him, takes his back, backpacks him. If he can rear naked choke him, great. If not, just hold on to the position. And again, it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing thing for the fans, but I just think he just kills time off the clock, wins rounds, and eventually you're fighting out of a hole. So O'Malley in the lead up, he's very confident in that I can knock out anybody if I land. And his coaches and his training partners, everybody, they're not saying, oh man, Sean's been killing everybody in the gym, you better watch out. Oh, Sean's that next big thing. People just don't know. They're all saying like, yeah, he's going to punch his chance. It doesn't yell a whole lot of confidence. It yells that they know what kind of spot this is. Sean O'Malley is going to get paid $1 million to headline this UFC pay-per-view. And then after that, his stock, even in defeat, won't really get hurt that much. He just lost to one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. He'll go back to the pecking order and make more money to entertain against different types of guys. But I like Aljamain Sterling, and I really like this line. Now, who likes a minus 260 line, Pat? Like, it's still pretty deep, but I think 100% what's baked into it is that hate factor. People just don't like Aljamain Sterling, and they really like Sean O'Malley. So they're not willing to go lay a 3-1 on Aljo. They're just going to throw a couple bucks and hope Sean O'Malley goes out and knocks him out. He's very popular. He runs a very successful podcast. He's got a merchandise line. He's the Sugar Show. Everybody loves the guy. And no doubt about it that he's going to be taking a lot of support on the money line because of that. But that's just giving Aljamain Sterling bettors a better number, and I'm going to be one of those guys. So he's going to top ticket this week because, one, I do like him. Two, there's 3 or 4 bigger favorites on the card that don't scream that much better than Aljamain Sterling. This is a much better price, and of course, because it's the headliner, you could just hedge out at the end of the night if you wanted to. So the pick for me is Sterling. You mentioned the over-under plus 150 on a 4.5. Don't mind it because Aljamain, not a lightning prey kind of guy, but he mostly just kills time off the clock. That being said, like if it's a huge grappling discrepancy, Aljamain probably does submit him at some point. If for whatever reason the Sugar Show's for real, that win over Peter Yan was legit. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a robbery. This guy is the real deal, and he's not going to outpoint Sterling. I don't think. I think he would catch him like a lot of the people backing him think he might do. So, screams to me probably inside the distance. And I'm just not super comfortable with betting an inside the distance on this main event. So I will just take that straight up Sterling, try to parlay it with a few things.
So I'm just looking at prize picks right now. The over-under, more or less on fight time is 18.5 minutes. So it's quite down from what you see at the overall betting line of 4.5 rounds. That's what, 3.5 rounds? Although that seems to be right around kind of the midpoint of what you were just saying. And then takedowns for Sterling is set at 3. From what you've kind of described, that sounds like the more than 3 would probably be the key, unless he just submits him right away.
Yeah, no, I would take the more than 3 because, again, Sterling is very low percentage. I think he's got like 28% takedown accuracy. So people that just look at numbers would be like, oh, damn, this guy's not a very good wrestler. But it's all about the chain wrestling, is that he'll throw out many takedown attempts to land you with that one. So, again, I think that O'Malley could maybe get back up to his feet. O'Malley might be able to survive a couple rounds. To me, it would suggest that Sterling's going to have to be in good shape, ready to wrestle 5 rounds, and goes out there and scores more than 3 takedowns. So I would like that. In terms of the more or less on the fight time, it getting into a 3rd round, a 4th round. With Sterling in the fights that he has that big grappling advantage over, whether it's a one-arm TJ Dillashaw or whether it's a Corey Sandhagen, like he is capable of going and outclassing these guys quickly. And with O'Malley, you haven't really seen him tested on the ground too much. I mean, he himself was compromised in his fight with Marlon Cheeto Vera, but he got dribbled his head off the mat in that fight. So not a great spot. Yeah, I would say Aljamain might look like $1 million if he takes him to the ground and smashes him. But to me, if you're looking at both guys historically, and this is a big spot, and they're both going to be ready, and they're both going to be in good shape, probably gets to a 3rd or 4th round, hits that over 3 takedowns, maybe hits the prize picks over. I just don't know if I like the over 4.5 rounds overall.
That makes sense to me. To quote Paul, moving on down, we're going to Weili Zhang, Amanda Lemos. Zhang is minus 300 as a giant 3-1 favorite. And then we have Lemos at plus 250. The over-under for rounds is set at 3.5 to the over is plus 170. So I guess they're trying to tell us that they think this is going to be a finish in probably like 2.5 rounds based on what these odds are telling us right now. I want to remind everyone who's out there right now, if you're watching the video version, get it on the podcast version for the Dog or Pass podcast, Apple or Spotify, hit the description for that. Or if you love football, betting on football and people yelling at each other, couldn't recommend the Pat Mayo experience more than I can because, I am Pat Mayo. So go download the Pat Mayo experience. Give us a run here because fantasy football season, football betting season is upon us. Where are you going with this? Is there a chance for an upset here? Because and the people out there know, I love me some of my favorite women's MMA underdogs.
So that's what I was going to say. I think the champion Zhang Weili goes out and does what she does best, and that's just dominate. I mean, she's pretty much, I don't always call, but some fighters are just generalists. Like, they're generally good at wrestling. They're generally good at striking, generally got good cardio. She's an advanced generalist. She's a perfectionist. I mean, she's got very high level striking, very high level wrestling, very high level cardio. And outside of maybe one fight with Rose Namajunas, the first one, very good durability as well. So Zhang Weili, even though she's 34 years old, is very much the complete package, and I am very much so a big fan. Amanda Lemos, 36 years old, and is not impressed with her. Never been impressed with her. I think this is champion all day. Zhang Weili cruises. And then you bring up an excellent point, women's MMA, the most unpredictable of all the MMA, Pat Mayo, because you got to expect that unexpected. And I've got a 34-year-old versus a 36-year-old in a 5-round fight. I don't know, like anything could happen. But here's my grievance with Amanda Lemos. She took a lot of time off when she first came to the UFC. She wasn't like super active, kind of bounced around. And then her wins, all super low level, man. Miranda Granger, Mizuki Inoue, Liviana Souza, Montserrat Ruiz. That's all bottom of the barrel right there. First step up in competition, they give her Angela Hill, gatekeeper to the top 10. Girl that's fought, gatekeeper to the top 5. But, she is what she is, serviceable at best. And that was a close fight, one that Angela Hill may have won. I kind of thought Angela Hill won. Split decision win. To me, it showed the limitations. She can crush the lower level fighters all day, but at the higher level, she's going to struggle. And again, not a young prospect, not someone I can foresee getting a whole lot better, making a whole bunch of improvements. So I'm not super high on her. Now, the Michelle Waterson fight. Michelle Waterson's, you're a fan of her. She's on the challenge. She's a mega babe. She's got skills. She's got talent. She's got fans. She's also at the tail end of her career. So a win over her looks good, not necessarily the biggest thing to me. And again, she finishes her early in the second round, like not overly tested. But then she gets Marina Rodrigues. Oh, and for the record, after the first round of the Michelle Waterson fight, the place is just booing because it's a terrible first round. Super low pace, super tentative. She subs her in the second round. Then her fight with Marina Rodrigues, she loses the first round, takes her down in the second round. Not a great fight. The place is starting to boo again. It's super low volume. It's not very entertaining. It's not very exciting. And then she knocks her out in the third round. So to me, she's on paper looks a good fighter. On paper, she's coming off a couple wins inside the distance, a knockout win over Marina Rodrigues, a submission win over Michelle Waterson. She fought Jessica Andrade, although that loss is not aging well because Jessica Andrade is also at the tail end of her career. I think it looks a lot better than it realistically is. And with Zhang Weili, you know what you're going to get out of her, which is 25 minutes. She can fight the 25 minutes, something you don't know if Lemos can even do. But beyond that, she can out-wrestle her, she can out-strike her. She's just a lot more veteran savvy. She's been in the spot. And if you were a little bit worried that she's 34, again, she's still younger than Amanda Lemos. So you could do a lot worse. Women's MMA has a tendency to kick me in the ass. But in this spot, I can't go against the champ.
So if we're taking a look at prize picks for the champ in this, instead of trying to eat the minus 300 for this, do you think it goes to the distance or yes or no?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking with the over 3.5 rounds is plus 170, so you can almost get 2-1 on your money if it does go the distance. Let's say it doesn't go the distance; it's a 5-round fight. That if Weili can knock her out early, then the under 60.5 significant strike seems pretty good, and just knock her out right away.
Yeah, and again, with Zhang Weili, there's certain performances where she looks indestructible and smokes him in the first round. Maybe that's one of them. But I think Lemos, who's got a track record of at least being able to take a punch, probably does take the punches and probably does get taken down and probably does survive somewhere into that third or fourth round. And if it gets that far, it's probably going the distance, to be honest. So I would lean towards fight goes the distance. But if you can hit an over 3.5 at good odds, like you're saying, then yeah, I would be for it.
Yeah, before that, and on prize picks right now, the fight time is 15.5 minutes. So that's just basically, can you get the third round or the fourth round to start? And all of a sudden you're looking a lot better. I'm not loving the prize picks so far. Maybe we can find some greasy ones down the card that I can throw on to the very end of it, because that'd be very nice. I just opened up my prize picks account. First time since USFL ended that I've done it. And I have a ton of money in here. I'd like to add to that and, be able to pay off for some of my regular betting losses. That's always be nice. Next one. Ian Garry, minus 400. Neil Magny, plus 300. 3-1 underdog in this fight. Over under rounds is 1.5. The over already juiced up to minus 180. The under at plus 150. What do you like in this fight?
So this one, it's not a matter of you like Ian Garry. It's just at what point are you going to pay up to it? Minus 400 definitely does seem very steep. So there's kind of two categories of fans. There's people that just outright hate Ian Garry, and there's people that are realizing that the kid's still very young, still developing, but very talented. Similar to a Conor McGregor, he's got this aura to him and this, this kind of chip on his shoulder, and he talks one hell of a game, and people just generally want to see him lose. And I think there's been a lot of Ian Garry faders from fight to fight, but he always ends up being these big favorites. And it's just a matter of at what point is Ian Garry shit in your apple pie? So again, the results have been there for him. But his debut against Jordan Williams, he's losing the first round till a bonehead mistake by Williams at the end of the first. It's a win, just didn't look great. His fight with Darian Weeks, he got taken down. He got controlled for almost 3 minutes by Darian Weeks, who's no longer with the promotion. Yeah, he won, but he didn't look great. His fight with Gabe Green, it's a sloppy brawl. He wins, he drops Gabe Green, but he can't put him away. Green hits him with 90 significant strikes. It's a win, it just doesn't look great. His fight with Song Kanong, Song Kanong's a bum. And for the record, Ian Garry is like a minus 1,600 favorite over Song Kanong. Song Kanong drops him clean knockdown in the first round. Garry ends up taking all the way to the third round to get this guy out of there. And Song Kanong hadn't fought in 2 years. Chinese, not even a prospect. He's like in his late 30s, mid 30s, maybe early 30s. Nah, I think it's mid 30s. All the same, the wins are there, but it's a matter of he talks so much shit and then barely wins these fights or wins them with some type of adversity. I think that's why you're getting a lot of pushback. Now, in this spot, he's supposed to take on Jeff Neal originally. Jeff Neal's coming off a couple big wins, looks to be reinvented, is a massive power puncher. If you thought Song Kanong hit hard, wait until you face Jeff Neal. And he was really poking and prodding at Jeff Neal, pissing him off for a month leading up to the fight. So I think it had fans' interest. Jeff Neal got hurt. Neil Magny comes in. And yeah, now it's just like a lot of the steam's been taken off it. But this kid's doing a great job of trying to sell pay-per-views and try to market himself. The UFC likes what they get. And I thought Jeff Neal maybe a little bit more than you can handle right now, but with Magny, potentially a softer matchup, depending on how the kid plays it. I think he wins just minus 400. I don't like. Now, why could Neil Magny spring this upset as a plus 300 favorite? Or as a plus 300 underdog? Well, it would come down to the grappling for me. So Magny, again, has been much of a gatekeeper for the majority of his career, and he's a little bit older now, 35 years old, but he does an excellent job at mostly neutralizing opponents and mixing in some wrestling. He's got good takedowns over high-level guys, and he's been largely able to control a lot of these guys in these clinch-type situations up against the cage, kill time off the clock. He's got some okay kickboxing, decent little body kick, long-rangey guy, stands tall but has a big, long range. So maybe he's got some tools that could pose Garry problems. Garry, meanwhile, he kind of gives up takedowns to way worse guys than Neil Magny. If you look at him in the UFC, he's rocking I want to say it's a 63% takedown defense. He gave up takedowns twice to Song Kanong. He gave a takedown to Gabe Green. He gave up a takedown to Darian Weeks. In the Weeks fight and the Gabe Green fight, he gave up about 3 minutes of control time in both of them. So that doesn't bode well good at all here. Neil Magny trains at altitude in Colorado. He's always game to go a hard 15 minutes. His cardio is generally good. He's got better wrestling than those guys. So it's plausible that he gets the takedowns, or at the very least is able to tie him up and neutralize him, which would be a problem if you're betting Ian Garry a minus 400. To me, it comes down to Magny's been around for a long time, and what he was capable of doing 2 years ago, he doesn't seem to be capable of doing anymore. He's coming off, and I'd never seen that last fight against Phil Rowe. Maybe I'd be able to get behind him, but that last fight with Phil Rowe, he looked awful. Cardio looked worse than it ever had. Scores 0 takedowns on Phil Rowe, who's a terrible defensive wrestler. Comes down to like a squeaker of a decision, which Phil Rowe very may well have won, and they gave it to Neil Magny. I'm not going to say he looked washed. He just did not look himself. And to think that taking this fight on short notice, he's somehow going to be reinvigorated, can't really get behind it. So yeah, I would take Garry. Now, minus 400, again, it's just not a money line that I love. Inside the distance, if Magny's completely washed, sure, inside the distance. It almost feels like an inside the distance. But yeah, the guy's just like way savvier. He's a veteran. He's been around with way better guys than Ian Garry. He's gone the distance with way better guys than Ian Garry. So chances are this is going to be more of a bog of a fight. Garry will try to look spectacular and will probably do enough to squeak it out and win a decision. Just don't love that money line. So you're a PRP better and you're going to bet this entire thing. Garry's going to be on it at some point. He said he doesn't add a whole lot of value to the top. So you're trying to get him in, third line-ish, fourth line maybe.
Well, here's the problem now. I just checked at DraftKings, and, well, the consensus line is still hanging out around minus 400. At DraftKings Sportsbook, it's already up to minus 450 for Garry. So I would expect that if there's already that sort of movement, making it a bigger and bigger and bigger number already, this might be like minus 500 by the time Saturday rolls around.
Yeah, you know what? I would think so too. There's still going to be money rolling in because it is a big pay-per-view, and it's a loaded card. Even the prelims are good. So you get the feel that someone like Garry is going to end up just taking money. And listen, I love betting big favorites on parlays, but if people are going to maybe fall into the potential trap of just taking the big four, putting them on one ticket and going through, it's like, which one of the big four is more likely to shit in the apple pie? A young guy like Garry, who's had no real steps up in competition, taking on a tough, savvy, long in the tooth gatekeeper like Neil Magny, there's potential threat there. But because of that fan favoriteness and because of the post-fight, the pre-fight press conferences and the weigh-ins, Garry will continue to likely get support in the market.
All right, and I'm looking at the prize picks side. Just based on the way that you've described this, I think this is the first one that really leaps out to me because it works in both directions, I think, from what you've said. So significant strikes for the future Ian Garry is set at 57.5. And in both the ways that you've described it, if Magny's kind of washed, maybe he just gets dropped early. And you're not going to get more than 57.5 significant strikes if someone else has a first round knockout, or it goes the other way. And Magny's a problem with, just taking him down, holding him there. It's hard to punch a guy significantly when he's holding you to the ground. So to me, the under of the 57.5 actually seems like a pretty good play.
Yeah, and again, not bad. And Ian Garry, when he's able to style on guys, sure, he can put up over 100. But I think you're right. In this spot with Neil Magny, if he hits him, it'll be closer to the Daniel Rodrigues fight, where he don't need to hit him a whole lot of times. He can find the mark, hurt this older veteran type fighter, and maybe put him away. And if the fight just ends up being on the ground, then yeah, Neil Magny's going to tie him up. If they're up against the cage, what's a significant strike? A little knee to the leg? Those don't usually count in stuff like Prize Picks, stuff like DraftKings, stuff like a lot of the fantasy players won't take those little shots as significant strikes. So I think you're probably onto something. And I think the general person would believe this fight's going to go 15. Neil Magny's going to try to cling on to him. Ian Garry's going to throw up big numbers. That's possible too. But Ian Garry's at a full camp and is ready to be that breakout thing. And had accepted a fight with Jeff Neal before this fight with Neil Magny. So he's going to be chomping at the bit, ready to go out there and handle business. And Magny's been swarmed before by guys that are a lot more athletic and a lot faster than him, which Ian Garry, he fits both of those. He fits the criteria in both those things. He seems to be a lot quicker than him. He's got that athleticism. And if he gets the jump on him, he could potentially just take him out early, hit that under for you on Prize Picks.
Well, that's the leader in the clubhouse at the moment. Once again, code DOP for Dogger Pass Podcast at prizepicks.com. If it is available in your state, which it should be, just click on the link down in the description. Bring you right there. Deposit match of up to $100 off the plays at the end. But that's the leader in the clubhouse right now to start this off. Super Mario Bautista against Damon Blackshear. There's no odds on this fight. Is this a last second replacement?
Yeah, so Bautista was initially going to fight Cody Garbrandt, which is kind of a marquee fight. Garbrandt's a former champion. He's kind of got a big following. So I think people were super excited for that. Damon Blackshear fought last week. So Paul and I broke down his fight 1 week ago. He actually was the top ticket this week. Like, he was the most confident play. Started off at like minus 240, took some support, went off somewhere around minus 300, and then looked every bit of it. He scored like only the second or third twister. I think it was the third twister in UFC history. So very rare submission. BJJ black belt absolutely dominates, takes zero damage against Jose Johnson, and then picks up the phone and says, you know what, I'll jump right back in there. So he's taking it on short notice, and I think that is kind of baked into the line. But you're saying there's no line available, so
you make the line. What would you make this line? And then by the time the people watch this, 12 hours later, there's going to be a line. So either you're going to be dead on or you're going to look foolish to it.
Yeah. Well, personally, but I will say I'm a little bit tainted already because I did see the Tapology votes with something like 85% of them were going with Bautista. So in my mind, Bautista is probably going to open as like a minus 240, minus 260 favorite. And I think he should probably be in the range of like minus 200, minus 210. Blackshear is super underrated in that he's got a draw against Yusuf Zalal in his first fight. He had a competitive decision against Boschrot in his second fight. He beats Lacerda in his third fight. Now he just picks up a quick little win, but maybe the jury's still out on him, whether he's an elite fighter. Whereas Bautista's got a lot of heat, was supposed to fight Cody Garbrandt. How's the full camp? Naturally, he's just going to be the much bigger favorite. It's just personally, I think Blackshear could go out there and give him a much harder time. Like, this is a card that the lines have been out for a while. They're very high profile bouts. And it's hard to disagree with the favorites. The favorites have been put in place. The market has already steamed them in the direction that they need to be going. And you do get a feel that it's like, well, which one of these favorites is going to be the one to do it? On paper, what's not to like against Bautista? The guy's extremely athletic, moves well, good wrestler, and that's going to be key here. I think his wrestling's better than Blackshear's. So Blackshear, BJJ black belt, excellent top game, but he's not going to likely be able to take down Mario Bautista. And if you can't take down Mario Bautista, then he's playing into Batista's game. Batista's a better striker. He's got better leg kicks. He's faster, quick little boxing combinations. And of course, he's not an idiot on the ground. I think he could score takedowns and maybe play him on Blackshear or play on top of Blackshear for a little bit, save himself. If Blackshear's on top, problem. Blackshear on his bottom, maybe not quite as big of a problem. So what's Blackshear? What's the redeeming qualities there? Well, again, on paper, he's taking the fight on a week's notice, but he just trained. He had a full training camp, went out there, did the damn thing, got paid twice, show money, win money, check from Venom, 0 damage, still in shape, fought for 3.5 minutes, jumps back in there. So I think he'd be as ready as anything. Then for Bautista or for Blackshear, he's got a short notice replacement. Same thing for Bautista. What does he know about him? Did he watch the fight a week ago? Is he able to formulate an excellent game plan over the course of a week? Was everything he was getting ready to do against Cody Garbrandt not out the window? So it throws a wrench in his plan. If he's a big favorite, that is at least something to think about. But this is actually the key reason I'm thinking Blackshear might have a chance of going out there and doing the damn thing is with Mario Bautista. He seems to be like a quick finisher. He likes to finish guys very quickly. His last 3 fights: Guido Canetti, first round rear naked choke; Benito Lopez, first round armbar; Brian Kelleher, first round rear naked choke. His losses: he won the first round against Trevin Jones, and then he gets iced in the second. He moves well. He's a good fighter. It seems like he likes to get it out of there first round and a half. The longer this thing goes, he opens himself up. Blackshear by no means is a power puncher, so I don't know that he's able to go out there and clip Bautista, but if he can tire him out in that first round, if he can drag him into some deeper waters in the second, you don't really see a Bautista in the third round looking as good. He's prone to make some more mistakes. He's prone to maybe lose that second round and then be tired in the third round and lose the third round. Like, it's all, to me, interesting, but I still got to take Bautista. Again, I just think he is the better fighter. The what ifs of what if this thing gets extended. Well, listen, I'm sure he was ready for that. He was getting ready for a much bigger fight. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's 30 years old. At some point, he's going to have to piss or get off the pot. And that's probably here, right? He thought he was going to beat Cody Garbrandt. He's still got to go out there and take care of business against Damon Blackshear, who's going to present a lot of problems. He's a tough, willing, scrappy competitor. But I think Bautista, at the very least, wins the first 2 rounds and just hangs on to survive, takes a decision. At the very best, probably boxes up Blackshear. Probably still wins by decision, to be honest. So if I could hit an over on this, I probably would. Bautista is such a proven finisher that you might be able to get a good line on him winning a decision, or at least the fight hitting some overs.
Well, if that's going to be the case, and let's say you're right, that this fight opens like between minus 250 and minus 300 for Bautista, that would make Blackshear anywhere from like plus 220 to plus 250, depending on how wide that line is going to be. Is there value on that number, being you'd get 2.5 times your money?
Yeah, but again, then you're just looking at a number more than playing the man. And when I do
that's what I do. Listen, if I'm going to bet on the number. I don't give a shit what happens between them.
Right. Well, I would suggest for you that Damon Blackshear, as not really ever gassed out. Like, I don't think he comes out here and gasses, so he should be able to give you a good full 3-round effort. He's never been finished, at least not in the UFC. Sorry, the last time he's never been finished in his entire career, right? He's got a split decision loss, 2 unanimous decisions, 3 unanimous decisions, 4 unanimous decisions, and a split. Those decisions: Pat Sabatini, great grappler; Danny Sabatello, excellent grappler, puts his head in the guillotine, chokes apparently, but a really good grappler. And Farid Basharat, his last time out, or not his last time out, but his last loss, excellent grappler. So those guys are able to put him in bad spots and beat him, but he's never been knocked out. He's never been submitted. He's a BJJ black belt who literally just hit somebody with a twister. So I think Bautista's last 3 wins are all submissions. Well, he's not going to submit Blackshear. Therefore, he's going to have to dominate him for 3 rounds. And again, for a guy that finishes so early all the time, the unknown is what's he going to look like in the second or the third round, where he's traditionally not looked as good as in prior fights. So if you're just playing the number, yeah, honestly, and I mentioned underdogs are going to come through, favorites are going to shit in the apple pie. Yeah, I think this is not a terrible number to get if you could get it at 240.
Just as a public service announcement for people out there, if you are a Mario Bautista and you do finish too early, you can still get chicks pregnant. That's just how that works. Hate to tell you, that's not going to save your ass at all. But How are the judges in Massachusetts versus what they would be in Vegas or Florida? I always know that Texas is one that you guys talk about, that you might just get some wonky decisions. What's the judging like here?
Yeah, so the ongoing joke is, oh man, they're going to such and such commission, and such commission's judges are bad. But the reality of it is the UFC is bringing their own judges, not the UFC's judges. Huge conflict of interest. But like the Nevada State Athletic Commission's judges seem to just go to all of the shows. It's like them governing everything. So you could be in New Jersey, or you could be in Iowa, or you could be in pretty much anywhere in the United States, and it's the same idiots, right? It's still Saul D'Amato. It's still just like the worst guys. They don't learn. There's no responsibility. There's no accountability. You could render the worst card going, and it just doesn't matter. Oh well. Chris Lee, what fight were you watching? Wasn't watching it at all. Oh, well. So it really doesn't matter if you're in Massachusetts. I think you're going to have that problem right across the map. So to me, yeah. If it's going to be a close fight between Bautista and Blackshear, neither of them are from the East Coast. I don't know. I think that the fans would be more prone to get behind the guy that took the fight on 3 days notice and is going to come out, fought last week, right? Is now taking this fight on 3 days notice, goes out there, probably gets out finessed in the first round, right? That's the reality of it. I think the striking advantage is going to go towards Bautista. If Bautista wants to make some of the takedown, it'll be there for him. And I don't think Blackshear subs him in the first round, if he subs him at all, right? So the first round probably goes towards Bautista. You might even get a better live betting number on Damon Blackshear come the second or third round. It comes down to, can he push this kid and make him work and make him tired and make him make a mistake? And again, you're playing the number, you're getting a plus 240. So does he win does he win, I think, 2 out of every 10 times, 3 out of every 10 times to make it worth your while? Yeah, maybe he does. It's a fist fight. My whole thing is Bautista's not a proven beyond first round guy. He's taking on a guy that's never been finished. So this thing's going to go beyond that first round. That would probably be the place to hit him. And same thing as the Trevin Giles fight. Bautista won the first round, right? If you would have hit Trevin Jones in that second round live, well, like plus 650 or something, and then he goes out there and he knocks him out. So Bautista's super talented, but a lot of these talented guys, they melt the longer the fight goes. The book's still out on if he's going to be one of those guys or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to put it, that the book is still out on that kind of thing, because everything that you've given in terms of example over the past 3 fights just kind of shows he knocks dudes out early. There's nothing that we know beyond that in terms of the recent history that we have coming through. So, maybe he can fight for 15 minutes. It's not going to be a problem. We just don't know. So you can't really hold that against him that he's finishing dudes early.
Yeah, and with Blackshear, he actually made his UFC debut on like 3 days notice, right? And wasn't in great shape. Took on a Yusuf Zalal, and I just want to make sure I get this right, but he was the Tapology saying he was only plus 120. It was higher than that. He was an underdog to Yusuf Zalal. Took the fight on ultra short notice. Won the first 2 rounds. Got dead dog tired. Got his ass kicked in the third round. It ended up being a 10-8, and he got a draw. And that was his debut. But this isn't him on short notice. He just fought literally a week ago. And so the fact that he's comfortable with stepping up to dudes on 3 days notice, 4 days notice, he's got the mentality. If he's in shape, which I think he is, he took no damage, which he didn't, he's a live underdog.
What's the pay scale for someone jumping up to being on a pay-per-view versus being on a fight night? Like you said, he got paid twice for being there and winning. When you are now in like the 4th to last fight on a pay-per-view, it's worth your while to take that fight, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think he's probably just signed a new contract, maybe I would think before his last fight. So the UFC works on a standard 4-fight deal to start off. And they'll either give you a 10-10 or a 12-12 because he had taken a short notice fight in his debut. Almost certainly it was a 12-12. Might have been a 14-14 just because it was real short notice. But let's just say it was a 12-12. He gets a draw. So he only gets the $12,000 show money. His next fight, because he had just drawn, would also be at $12,000. And he loses it to Basharat. So now his 3rd fight in the UFC, he's still making $12,000 and $12,000. But he wins that one, wins over Luan Lacerda. Now it would naturally bump up to 14-14. If you win again, it bumps up to 16-16 till the end of this contract. He's only got 1 fight left on the contract. The UFC won't let the majority of their guys fight out the deal. They'll re-sign you before that contract expires. So I would think coming off the win over Lacerda, they offered him a new 3-fight extension on his deal, and they may have bumped him up to a 16-16, and then he goes out there and he wins against Jose Johnson. So if I had to guess, he'd be making somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 plus 18 or 20 plus 20 because he's taking this one on short notice and it's a UFC pay-per-view. Maybe someone's patting him on the back. Maybe he throwing a 20 and 20, but probably it's a backstage handshake and he's not going to show that much on the straight up money side of things. So is it worth it? Like, you're a professional athlete fighting on a giant card against some skilled dude that's coming out there to take everything from you. It's like $20,000 and $20,000 enough. Like, no. But I think most of these guys be the first one to tell you they don't want to work a desk job. They don't want to be average. They want to be above average. And the name of the game in fighting is who can suffer the most. These guys have suffered their entire careers, and this is nothing new to them. So when you talk to regional show fighters who are suffering equally as bad and making $500, these guys are making 40 grand maybe. Holy shit. Yeah, to them it's worth it all day. If you're an NFL player, a basketball player, a tennis player, a golfer, anything like that, like I can't see it being worth your while in the slightest bit.
No, I mean, there's always been the rumblings about the union and that kind of thing. Like, I'm just shocked they still pay them so little.
Well, okay, so you and I have had discussions in our life, and like, we're not exactly pro-union guys. I wouldn't say that I know there's a lot of pro-union guys that are listening to the show right now, so I'm not saying it that way. It's just, it's another level for somebody to take advantage and overstretch their reach. And we've worked at companies, Pat and I, that it's like a union would quite literally ruin this place because they just didn't have the money. They didn't have the money to support a union and take care of all these, more money. Like, listen, it would have been great because we would have been getting boosts and increases and all these different things. But the bottom line is it would have killed the company, and then you don't have a job at all. So what was the point of that? But yeah, for fighters, I think in any sport, you're going to get taken advantage of. And fighters, it's kind of like being a running back in the NFL. Like, who knows how long your career is? Could be 5 years, could be less. You could go out there and be a Hall of Famer and play later on, but like, chances are you're going to have a short little run at this thing and fight. Well, the average guy's getting maybe 6 fights in the UFC, maybe less. The average, not everyone's going to fight 10, 20, 30, 40 times in the UFC. The average is you fan out after your first deal. You fan out after some way, partway through your second deal, they cut you. So a union, well, yeah, you get cut. That's fine. But maybe there's some type of compensation. I'll say one last thing, we can move on. We got a ton of fights to talk about still, but this is just like you getting older and you getting more mature. But like a couple years ago, I had seen well-known kickboxing coach Eric Haycraft out of Kentucky. Like, legit, if you're into American Muay Thai, like, this guy's the man. But regardless, he had put this thing out that he's like, in the UFC, if you get KO'd and it's a knockout of the night bonus, how much does your opponent get? $50,000. $50,000 someone would get for a knockout of the night bonus or a performance bonus to go out there and get that clean KO. And he's like, okay, the guy who gets KO'd should get 5K. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? Like, no. How could you reward someone who just got KO'd? How could you reward someone who went and just got destroyed? What if you're on the last fight of your deal and you know you're going to lose and there's only a minute left in the fight and you just quit on yourself? Like, you can't reward someone for a loss like that. But he said something which didn't make sense at the time, but has stuck with me ever since. He's like, you're on the end of that KO reel for life. Like, your brain cells, your brain man has been donated to some highlight reel that they're going to make money off of playing on repeat over and over and over again. Your life's forever changed from the devastating KO loss. The other guy just gets 50 to put you away. You don't think 5K is a pat on the back? Wouldn't be a bad thing? And it's like, the older I get, it's like, pay the guy that got KO'd. What are you talking about? Like, he got a family. He just got KO'd. But unions could do stuff like that. You're not going to be able to convince management to do it unless you had some type of backing. And yeah, I'm as much as I am for the people. Like, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. And I think that mentality, what am I going to do about nothing, is the reason they don't have a union. Just nobody feels like they can stand up and do something about it. So they're all willing to just, get paid. If you win fights, who cares about the union? You're going to get paid. It's for the guys that lose fights and don't have a long career in the UFC. Those guys need the union. You think Aljamain Sterling wants a union? You think Sean O'Malley wants a union? Wow, maybe Aljamain. He's for the people. People don't like him, but he is for the people. Yeah, but most guys that are getting paid, they're not jumping behind it. It's the guys that got beat up and fanned out and have a broken leg and, they're hooked on Vicodin now because of post-traumatic stress injuries. Like, they're going to need taken care of. And the top 1%, the top 2%, is it not on them to take care of that bottom end? So there's an argument. You could talk about that for hours on end.
Yeah,
But,
just I've always
there's
noticed
an
that it seems to
argument.
be sort of like the stars at the time really don't seem like they give a shit, but it's the retired stars who are kind of dealing with their retirement and their injuries now, even though that they're the ones who can probably afford some of this stuff, depending on how long ago that they retired. They're like, oh shit. And some of these guys might be in real bad shape and they got nothing and they can't do anything. So I think that's now no one who's actively involved making $1 million is going to be like, well, I'll make 700 grand so everyone else can make a bunch of money. It's just not going to work that way.
That's the facts, the nature of the beast.
Yeah, but it's going to take something like that. And I mean, I don't even know. They might just cut all the bottom end guys and bring in new bottom end. There's tons of bottom end guys that you can feed, right?
Yeah, you know what I was watching the other day? It was The Replacements, the Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman. Great movie. But that's the bottom line, dude. Someone wants to play because it's their dream.
We did that. We tried replacement refs in the NFL.
They will play.
We tried replacement refs, and that didn't even work. Like anytime they've used replacement players in any professional sport, it's been a fucking disaster. But as long as you could keep your stars and your top end, and all you would just do is just pay them a little bit more, which overall might end up being more costly. But I just don't see it ever being in that position because it's like the PGA. Like there's no union in the PGA. The difference is that all these guys are like, have even the bottom end players on the PGA Tour make so much goddamn money that they can afford to have the best lawyers, the best agents, all of this stuff to make sure that they get their due when it comes down. In the UFC, it's just completely different. Like you're, fighting up from, you're fighting. For one thing, you're not at a country club making contacts playing golf your entire life. So I would just guess that the background on a lot of these guys, like individual sport by individual sport, you'd have golf and tennis on one side, MMA on the other side.
Yeah, it's completely different worlds, no doubt about it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Marlon Vera against Pedro Munhoz. Everyone knows I can't pronounce these names. I haven't seen them before.
Munhoz.
All right.
Pedro.
So Pedro is a plus 160 dog in this fight. Vera is a minus 185 favorite. 2.5 rounds is the over-under, and it's minus 350 to bet the over of 3.5 rounds. What do you like here?
So at some point, and I say this every week, it's like, do I got the cojones to take the shot on one of these underdogs, or are you just going to keep skirting by with, I'll take the favorite. And then to me, the favorites that, you end up taking, but you're iffy on, you just move them lower. But at some point, you got to take a shot on an underdog. And I'm kind of struggling back and forth in this one, internally, because I think Pedro Munhoz is absolutely a live underdog. So with Marlon Vera, badass gangster, fan favorite, absolutely love the guy, family man, hard worker, very entertaining. But man, oh man, he's the slowest starter in the game, Pat. Almost guarantee he's going to lose the first round. It's just something he does, always. He's fought in world-class, high-level guys and lost the first round. He's fought in bus yard bums and lost the first round, man. I don't know what the hell it is about him, but he's notoriously a slow starter. And that is very problematic when you're the favorite in a 3-round fight, because there's only 3 rounds. You are giving up the first one, which means you need to win 2 and 3 guaranteed. And just like the higher up you go up, it's going to be a problem. So we don't have to talk about all his fights, but believe me, he loses the first round in 85% of them, he's going to lose that first one. Let's just talk about that recency. Davey Grant loses the first round. Frankie Edgar, he lost the first 2 rounds to Frankie Edgar. A shell of a man, not himself, just really at the back end, and he lost the first 2 rounds to him, knocked him out in the third. Thank God he did, because he would have lost to Frankie Edgar. His fight with Rob Font, he lost the first round to Rob Font. It did go a full 25 minutes. He dropped him 3 times. Vera, like a steam engine, is going to pick up some momentum the longer the things go. 25 minutes is suited for him. 15 minutes, not suited for him. So old man Frankie Edgar beats Rob Font. He gets old man Dominic Cruz. Now, this one's very interesting to me. He's a big favorite over Dominic Cruz, who doesn't figure to have much of a chance in this. And wouldn't you know it, Dominic Cruz wins the first 2 rounds. If this is a 3-round fight, Dominic Cruz would have won the fight. Unfortunately, it's a 5-rounder, and Chito Vera KOs him in the 4th in a fight that he was losing the first 2 rounds. So it's kind of just and then his last fight against Corey Sandhagen, he lost every single round. Maybe did he win one? Was it a 49-46? Maybe. But he proved in that fight, wrestling is not very good. Takedown defense isn't all that solid. And the first 2 rounds against Sandhagen, he gets taken down, Pat. and he just stares at him. He's just holding him. He's staring at him. And the whole commentary team, it's as if they're figuring out. They're like, whoa, man, Marlon Vera's got to show more sense of urgency. It's like, does nobody watch this guy throughout like the last 8 years of his career? Like, this is who he is. He's just mad complacent and then turns the wheels on late in the fight, knocks guys out late in the fight, built for 5 rounds all day. But this is a 3-round fight. And again, that's extremely problematic to me because if he gives up the first round to Pedro Munhoz, which he probably will, Pedro's live to just win one of the next 2 rounds. He doesn't have the wrestling to probably consistently be a threat to Chito Vera, but he's got the jiu-jitsu. Like, if he was to catch a kick, if he was to fall on top of him, then he's going to have a significant grappling advantage. If, for whatever reason, Chito Vera wanted to take Pedro down, yeah, Pedro's going to be comfortable off his back. It's the striking. He's just hell on wheels. The guy just throws leg kicks. He throws, big hooks left and right, lots of volume, pressure, gets in your face, makes it a dirty fight. He's lost some big fights. He's won some big fights, but same thing is universal in almost all of them. He's coming forward and he's trying to mix it up. So if Marlon Vera, who shows big volume in 5-round fights, if he could somehow get that volume, squeeze it into a 3-rounder, get a quick start, show a sense of urgency, yeah, I think he beats Pedro Munhoz. I think he's the better fighter. It's the slow start that's got me thinking he very well be fighting out of a hole and knocking out Pedro Munhoz. Like, good luck, dude. The guy's got one hell of a chin on him, has fought in very, very good guys. And I think he's got a trick or two still up his sleeve. So if he goes out there, uses the leg kicks, minds his P's and Q's, uses his hands a little bit, and just can fluster him, then I think he's got a shot at pulling it off. At the very least, what I would present to you as a guy that's sitting at home and saying, no, Marlon Vera is my guy. I'm a big fan. I think he's going to win. At the very least, what I would present to you is live bet him after the first round, where you will get a much better, probably even money. He's almost always even money after he starts as the favorite, loses the first round, and can be had at even money after the first. So I would say live betting opportunity if you're a Marlon Vera guy. If you're looking to take a straight up underdog, now's the chance to take it on Pedro because that line wouldn't be there if he won the first, obviously. So for me personally, yeah, I'm going to have to take some underdogs here and there. And so the official pick will be Pedro Munhoz of the time of this, I would say of the time of this writing, but of the time of this recording, I'll take the dog shot on Pedro Munhoz.
Brad Tavares is a minus 270 favorite over Chris Weidman at plus 230. The over-under for rounds is 1.5, and the over for that is already up to minus 200. So looks like they think it's going to go at least a round and a half. Will it go to decision? I don't know. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I was actually surprised they set the line as 1.5, just because it seems like it's going to go a little bit over. But with Chris Weidman, he just snapped his leg in 17 seconds. And when I say he just snapped his leg in 17 seconds, I mean 2 years ago. You haven't seen him fight in 2 years. He's now in his very late 30s, I believe 39 years old. And he wants to end his career on a high note and come back for one last kick at the can. And I get it. It's courageous and it's pretty cool. Like, you got to respect the hell out of it. But at the same time, like, what can you really expect out of him? He's been on for 2 years. He snapped his leg in 17 seconds. So can he last a round and a half? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But the UFC doesn't do things just to do them, right? Weidman gets paid a good chunk of money because he's a former champion. He's a marquee name. And even though he's on a terrible losing streak and hasn't fought in a couple of years, your contract doesn't reflect that, right? You're still getting paid because you're a marquee name. So they got to throw him in there with somebody. But at the same time, who do you throw him in there with? You don't want someone absolutely mauling him. You don't want to make him some colossal underdog coming back. He can't fight some young whippersnapper who's making $12,000 from the Contender Series. It just makes no sense, right? So you need some aged veteran who doesn't really pose that many threats. Brad Tavares is that guy. Brad Tavares has been in the UFC. He made his debut coming off of The Ultimate Fighter in 2010. Okay, so he's been in the UFC for 13 years, Pat. 13 years Brad Tavares has been kicking it. In those 13 years, he's rocking a 14-8 record in the UFC. And he at no point has broken into the top 10 of the division. So he's very much just been a go through the motions kind of guy. He's fought some good guys. He's gone the distance with Israel Adesanya back before Izzy was Izzy. He went the distance with Yoel Romero. He went the distance with some pretty badass guys. He also got smoked in 44 seconds by Robert Whittaker, a badass. He got smoked by Edmund Shabazian in the first round. Busted prospect. He got destroyed by his Bruno Silva his last time out. and still managed to go the distance with Dricus du Plessis sandwiched in the middle of that. So he's so very, very middling, right? But to me, the biggest thing is his wins, right? So his last win came in 2021 by split decision over a guy that's cut from the organization. And then before that, he won a fight at the beginning of 2021 over a decision over Antonio Carlos Jr., who's also cut from the promotion. Jotko, the win before that, cut from the promotion. Talis Ladies, retired. Elias Theodoru, God rest his soul, has passed away. Kyle Magalesh has been cut for years. Nate Marquardt, totally experiencing CTE, man. Like, it's sad what's happening to that guy, but he's no longer kicking it for a long time. Pretty much every single win that Brad Tavares has ever had in the UFC, all of them, every single win he's ever had in the UFC, guys that are no longer with the promotion. He's their enforcer. If you can't beat Brad Tavares, you're out of here. And if you can beat Brad Tavares, good on you. But as I mentioned, those are all of his wins. All of them by decision. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 10 of his last 11 wins are by decision. So I just think it's a perfect opponent for a Chris Weidman that you don't want him to get hurt. And he's taking on a Brad Tavares who shows pretty much no stopping power. So to think that Weidman's going to get tossed in there and get knocked out, probably not going to happen. Then with Brad Tavares, he doesn't really fight a whole lot of wrestlers. He only shows I think he shows like an 80% takedown defense, but against non-wrestlers. And the last time he did fight a wrestler, he got taken down 5 times against Amari Akhmedov. Coincidentally enough, Chris Weidman, his last win in the MMA was against Amari Akhmedov, where Weidman soundly outgrappled Amari. So part of me thinks that Weidman does have the wrestling advantage. If he can get the fight to the ground, fantastic. If he can't, but maybe he can just hold him against the cage. Brad Tavares doesn't really show anything in the clinch. Brad Tavares doesn't show anything on the ground. Brad Tavares' cardio is really not all that good. Brad Tavares doesn't have any stomping power. So this is a really good comeback fight for Chris Weidman. In fact, one of the very few good comeback fights available for Chris Weidman. The UFC hammered it out of the park, putting this fight together. And Brad Tavares is a minus 270 favorite. Like, in what world? So this is probably the PRP pick because Weidman, did I mention he broke his leg in 17 seconds 2 years ago? Oh, yeah, probably the PRP pick, but I will take that plus money on Chris Weidman.
Put Weidman on the PRP. Don't be a coward.
That's what I'm saying. He will be the PRP.
Okay, good.
Pick. He's going to be all the way at the bottom, but he will be the guy that if he hits it and everybody else hit it, he would just adds so much value because he's a sizable underdog with a legitimate chance to win. And if he gets smoked out of there, he gets smoked out of there. But again, I'm not just picking him for absolutely no reason. I think he can win, and the number is hella tempting. I don't know if that's by design to get suckers like me to throw money in on Chris Weidman, but a winnable fight, I will admit.
Well, yeah, Dick, so I'm looking at the Prize Picks fight time right now. It's 11 minutes. And with the over of the 1.5 juiced up so high right now to minus 200, like, if Weidman wins, is it by decision or does he beat him early?
I think if he wins by decision just because, dude, the age, the layoff, you think he would take the conservative
so that's
approach.
The play. Over 11
approach.
minutes.
Yeah. You said it was a 1.5 at minus 200. Like, it seems deep for a 1.5 over the history. We already talked about the history. Brad Tavares, if he's in a fight, it's going over unless he's going to get knocked out. Is Weidman going to knock him out? Yeah, sure, it's MMA. More than likely gets his feet wet, gets some ring rust off, sees if he's got it anymore. And just for the record, the card's being headlined by Chris Weidman's good personal friend and longtime training partner, Aljamain Sterling. You know, this card, I think it's going to mean something. I think he's going to be in good shape, and he's going to have the whole team, and they've been grinding. So if he puts his best foot forward, if he puts his broken foot half foot forward, I think he can win this fight, man. I really do. And the number's tempting.
All right. So going down, Gregory Rodrigues minus 360. Denis, oh my God. Denis Tiinsalin is what I'm going to go with here, which is not even close. But what's the name? How do I pronounce this?
Yeah, so I call him Tulin, but I think it's Tulin. But yeah, Denis. I call him Denis Tulin. Denis Tulin.
Denis to not get a win because he's plus 285.
Yeah, well, again, this comes down to what kind of fight does Gregory Rodrigues want to fight? Because Gregory Rodrigues has all the skills in the world to make this look effortless, go out there, show up and show out, and win relatively easy fashion. It's just, for whatever reason, he's got a knack at like standing in front of his opponent. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, good ground game, great back take, doesn't usually finish the rear naked choke, doesn't usually keep his hooks in, but ability to get to his back is certainly there. His grappling is certainly there. And against Denis, it's going to be there all day long. But for a guy that's primarily a grappler, yeah, his losses are he stands right in front of the guy. Dong Young Park, he won, but he's out on his feet, wobbling, playing rock'em sock'em robots with the guy. He just happens to clip him and get the win. His fight with Armen Petrosian, he pursued a couple takedowns, but for the most part, he was just very happy standing in front of him. He even diced him with a head kick at one point, but unfortunately got outworked. But his last fighting is Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira is not very good. And this is a fight that RoboCop Gregory Rodrigues wins all day long. Unfortunately, he just stands right in front of him. And what you're starting to see is like his durability is not that good. Been rocked by Park, but he took it. Got rocked by Petrosian, but he took it. This time, he didn't take it. He got hit. He stiffened up. He stiffened up bad. Big underdog win. Bad loss for Gregory Rodrigues. Now they're trying to feed you the same man at a big price tag versus a guy in Denis Kulin who's pretty much a one-dimensional banger. He just wants to stand right in front of you and wants to let his hands go. If RoboCop plays that game, which normally does, he normally plays that exact game. If he does that, yeah, not going to be a good time. If he goes out there and realizes, yeah, my chin might be a little bit compromised, I need a win to get myself back in the win column, let's just take the path of least resistance. Screw the $50,000 performance bonus. Just collect your win money. Get your win money. That's a second check. Who cares about the bonus second check? The win second check. He takes him down. And his wrestling is more than good enough to get Denis down, and his grappling is more than good enough to get Denis out of there. So that's what I would suggest probably happens. Kulin on the regional scene in Russia couldn't grapple, losses are by submission. Comes to the UFC, Aliskabab Kurziev, beast of a man. Beast of a man takes him down and subs him with a rear naked choke fairly effortlessly. His fight with Jung Yun Park, he got taken down, he got rear naked choked fairly effortlessly. Jamie Pickett, who's god-awful, just lost on this last card. Well, he doesn't actually have the ability to take him down, so he stands in front of him and Denis KOs him. So to me, it's very much, is Gregory going to take the fight to the ground, which he has the tools to do. He has the tools that Jamie Pickett did not have. Take him down. Take him down, submit him. So you do that, easy money, big favorite. Cashes is a big favorite. You're going to hit an under here. You're going to hit an inside the distance. Very likely it would be the Rodrigues by submission. But boy, oh boy, man, he's got questionable ring IQ. So, like, we can only hope he does that. But if he decides, hey, let me show you guys my chin ain't that bad, then you're just playing with fire. I expect him to do the right thing, Pat Mayo. I very much do. But you get burned so often, your mind starts to tell you, like, what's my worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that could happen? And that's RoboCop thinking he's indestructible. Anybody that's seen the movie knows you could beat his ass. You got to mob him up. Got to mob him up and hopefully have, lots of people around. That would be the way to do it. In this case, fist fight, anything can happen. But I would say this fight hits the ground. Gregory Rodrigues puts that rear naked choke into play. So sign me up for rear naked choke, first round submission, maybe an under 1.5. Maybe second round. I can see a second round submission. But even if it's in the second round, probably still hits that under 1.5.
Well, I like what you said there about the second round, because on Prize Picks, the over-under fight time is 5 minutes. So if the second round starts, you end up winning that one. So I'm now considering this one based on the way that you've talked about it. I do know if I'm going to play a DraftKings lineup, this guy Denis T is going in my lineup. He'll be like the cheapest guy on the board, and he might win it with a first-round knockout.
You know what? That is the win condition, and those are the guys that score big. And like last week, I actually had a hell of a week last week. The one that got me was this Francis Marshall. He loses this Isaac Dalgarian. And on the show, Pat and I mentioned on the show, like, if you play fantasy games that are reliant on somebody scoring a first round finish, like all of Dalgarian's wins are in the first round. That wasn't like, a lot of people were like, oh, dude, Francis Marshall's dead to me. He's dead to me. Because I always tweet out if a guy really screwed me, which on paper, Francis Marshall really screwed me. The guy's dead to me. Nah, he's not dead to me. He did nothing wrong. That Isaac Dalgarian guy did everything right. I seriously underestimated him. The guy's a beast of a man. In fact, at one point, I was fairly convinced that he was blind and that Francis Marshall was made of Braille, because he was putting hands on him, man. And it was non-competitive right throughout. My bad. My terrible pick on that one. And so, yeah, we hit our 2-fight parlays. We hit our 4-fight parlays. We hit our 6-fight parlays. If I would have gotten that one, we would have hit the 8 and the 10. Would have been a colossal night, but all the same, it was like, dude, Bulgarian just showed up. But he was a first-round guy. He was a first-round win condition guy. And even though I picked against him, you can still recognize that he was live for these first-round type spots. Denis ain't Bulgarian. Bulgarian's a real deal. Denis is not. But similar to the fact that his win condition is a quick finish, he's going to be lowly owned, he's going to be lowly priced, and he has very high upside.
Austin Hubbard is minus 170. Austin Hubbard and Kirk Holobaugh is plus 145. This is the closest fight that we've seen on this card so far, I think.
Yeah, so this one's an interesting one. So it's the Ultimate Fighter finale, and we're talking about 11 fights, but there's going to be a 12th one. So I think the episode's on tomorrow, and then we're going to know who's fighting Brad Katona in the finals. But there's actually one fight from the Ultimate Fighter that's going to be on this card that just hasn't even been announced yet. Holobaugh versus Hubbard is. So just the most whacked season of the Ultimate Fighter you've ever seen, Pat. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And they decide, instead of picking teams, they always pick teams. Instead of picking teams, we're just going to go veterans versus up-and-comers. So half of the season is guys that have already fought in the UFC. The other half is schlubs who've not fought in the UFC, and they're not like 23-year-old up-and-coming guys that, the ones that are young are too green, can't fight UFC vets. The other guys there's a reason they never got their call up. And then I said right from the get-go, Conor McGregor should get the aged veterans and Michael Chandler should get the prospects, because the prospects would learn a lot from Michael Chandler. Here's a guy with excellent work ethic who's worked for everything he has. He's got good striking skills. He's got good wrestling skills. He's got good coaching mentality. He could show the young up-and-comers a route up. The old veterans, these guys had their shot. Kurt Holobaugh, this is his 3rd time in the UFC. He lost one single fight in the UFC, I think in 2013, cut after one. He was on a Strikeforce deal. UFC bought Strikeforce. He came out on a 1-fight deal, lost, cut, comes back like 5 years later, goes 0-3, cut. Now he's on the Ultimate Fighter and he's about to win it and get into the UFC for a 3rd time. Like, those are the guys that Conor McGregor should have been coaching, because those guys would see, like, damn, dude, I've been training longer than this guy and I could probably beat this guy's ass on a good day. And he's got the Ferrari and he's got the alligator skin boots and the Versace, and like, I think it would motivate the old veteran to be like, this is my last run. I got to make it happen. What are the young kids going to learn from him? Nothing. Young kids don't learn nothing from him. And the veterans, they all know as much as Chandler anyways. So it was just stupid. And by the way, to no surprise to anybody, the veterans absolutely whomped the prospects. Conor McGregor's team went 1-7, and it's a straight beatdown. But this is the finals of one of the beatdown. Both guys are from Team Chandler. Both guys have been in the UFC. Kurt Holobaugh, 36 years old, sorry. What's super cool about this one is his manager calls him up and he's like, dude, I got you on the Ultimate Fighter. And Holobaugh's kind of like, I might be done, man. I think I might be done. Like, I'm not in great shape and I'm a little bit overweight. And I don't know, like, why would you get me on the Ultimate Fighter? But it's like, dude, let's do it. He's 0-4 in the UFC. He was 0-1 in Strikeforce. And he had won a fight on Dana White's Contender Series, but it got overturned to a no contest. So he's had 0 success at the upper level, like, UFC type of promotions. But his manager gets him off the couch, gets him into the Ultimate Fighter house. First fight, he take on Lee Hammond, who's Conor McGregor's boy, some grappling whiz from Ireland, and he straight beats him down. His second fight with Jason Knight, Dana says, this is the fight of the season. The fans were all like, dude, this was the fight of the season, best fight of the season. Fair. But fight of the season would suggest it was competitive. This was a one-sided ass kicking from Kurt Holobaugh and Jason Knight, who's a legitimate fighter, UFC veteran, bare knuckle boxing world champion, BJJ black belt, good fighter. And Kurt Holobaugh put an absolute beating on him. So now he's in the finals. He's like flirting with retirement, 0-4 in the UFC, 36 years old. Then you win a couple fights on the Ultimate Fighter and you're back in, baby. It's like the sport is a roller coaster and he's looking to capitalize on the highs. He's seen the lows. He's looking to capitalize on the highs. So he's got a tough fight here against Austin Hubbard, who's definitely younger, definitely probably a little more spry. But again, I just think a guy that goes through the motions. He's 31 years old. He actually has wins in the UFC. He went 3-4 before getting released and ending up on the UFC. So a lot more success. Guy's got 3 wins in the UFC. He's got 7 fights overall between one stint, not like Kurt Holobaugh. The thing is that he's fought way lower level of competition. And again, it seems to me like volume pressure fighters that stay in his face and put some volume on, they're going to be very effective with him. They can land, they can push him backwards. He likes to mix in his wrestling, but Holobaugh's a solid guy with some decent wrestling. And I think Holobaugh's got a chip on his shoulder, got nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to lose. I think he stands in front of him and he throws down. So Holobaugh actually almost beat Raoni Barcelos back in the day, won the first 2 rounds against him and got clipped in the third. But outside of that, he's very durable. His cardio seems good, and he's coming off some real good momentum from the Ultimate Fighter. I think it was the confidence boost that he needed. He's got big power. I think he can spring the upset over Austin Hubbard. So I will take the underdog shot here on Kurt Holobaugh to get the job done. And it'd be nice to see a savvy old guy like that pick up a big win, which would definitely be the biggest win of his career, I would say.
I think you need to go with a Holobaugh Weidman top ticket.
Holobaugh Weidman, I got another underdog. Pedro Munhoz. But
there we go.
Dog, if those guys
that's what I'm playing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll find some like women dogs. I'll bet Andrea Lee plus 285. Throw her on too.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. It'd be something like that. Will crush my ticket and make your ticket, but it would make the ticket.
If people don't know me, I'm Pat Mayo, filling in for Paul Shaughnessy at Paul Shag on Twitter. Cody and I have been doing this show on and off for 10 years, as him and Paul have been doing it every week for 10 years. He used to do the DraftKings picks on my show with me. But most people out there watching, if they know me, know that I don't really care about the UFC. I'm the most casual UFC person of all time. So I got to ask you, I didn't even know Conor McGregor was on TV right now. What's going on with Conor at this point? Is he going to fight again?
Yeah, so Conor's real good at keeping himself relevant. I think all the greats, if you've got that long-lasting ability to draw, it's like you have to stay in the headlines. And people talk about influencers, all this bullshit. It's not even so much like they're influencing anybody, it's as much as they keep their name in the headlines. Because there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's just publicity. It's what makes you a star. John Jones got 3 DUIs. Dude, one time he hit a pregnant lady and ran off. Yeah, but still, pound for pound goat. People tune in to see him. So Conor's like that. Like, he doesn't fight all that much, but he'll punch out an old man in a bar, and there's some more serious allegations than that I just don't really feel like getting into. But all the same, it's like whatever his name comes up, it's some type of controversial story, and people want to see him. So he could fight once every 5 years if he wants, but whenever he comes back, it's going to be a Floyd Mayweather mega fight. It's going to be a big mega fight in Abu Dhabi against Khabib. He's going to get paid boatloads of money to fight once, when Damon Blackshear had to fight 5 times, get paid 20, man. God damn it. That's what you don't want. You want to be like Conor. So in that sense, yeah, he wants to fight. Talking about fighting Michael Chandler in December. He's also talking about bare knuckle boxing, some TikToker right now. He's also talking about taking a pro boxing match. He's sued Manny Pacquiao.
Versus, there's no chance he'd ever fight Jake Paul, right? Because Jake Paul would just beat the shit out of him, wouldn't he?
Well, he would definitely fight Jake Paul. It's all about the money being right. But
isn't
yeah,
Jake Paul
skill-wise,
like 6'4"?
But that's what Jake Paul does to everybody, right? Like, all of these guys would probably beat Jake Paul if all was fair, but he's weight bullying them. Like, he's a natural cruiserweight. I mean, the guy's probably looks good at 195, but he's able to get down to 185. So let's call him a middleweight, but he's every bit of a middleweight. And he's got every benefit and advantage, in putting a good team together. It's all work ethic. It's all skill. He's doing it all himself. But he's a natural middleweight, and he's fighting guys that are 55ers at best. Conor McGregor's best days are at 145. Nate Diaz's best days are at 155. But if you catch them 20 years into their career on the back 9, and your 2 weight classes higher than them, and it's a boxing match, they can't take you down. They can't kick you. Could you not beat them? Yeah, sure you could beat them. But it's all about the money, dude. Do you think those guys care? Nate Diaz apparently got paid $20 million for that last fight. You think he gives a shit that he lost? No. He fought in the UFC like 26 times. Think he got paid $20 million in those 26 fights? Probably not. So this is good for business, dude. And people want to hate on the guy. People that are pro-union hate on the guy. Like, he's the only one getting these guys paydays, man.
Which is
Tyron
funny because
Woodley is a bum.
And it's funny because Jake Paul came out as like a big pro-union guy, didn't he?
He's the only guy pushing for them, and he's got clout and he's got pull, and it's like you need a bunch of those guys to get together. And like, he's not even an MMA fighter. MMA fighters and their fans universally hate the guy, and he's like quite literally the only guy trying to get anything going for them, getting them paid, setting up undercards, setting up big fights, getting them publicity. Yeah, again, but he's got a similar strategy to Conor McGregor. It's just like, just talk as much as you can. If it's good, great. And if it's bad, sure, who cares? Because as long as they're talking about it, that's their main thing. That's how they make money, and he makes a ton of money. But yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's funny that he's like getting these guys career changing paydays, life changing paydays, and he's like fighting for a union, and he's just like publicly well, why won't he fight a heavyweight? It's just like, why would he do that? Why doesn't he fight a real boxer? Also, why the hell would he do that? Like, come on, guys, play the game a little bit. Well, I don't like these kind of fights. Don't watch it. But guess what? 2 million pay-per-views. Other people are watching it, so
yeah,
is what it is.
I watched the last one. I watched the Diaz one.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. It honestly got a little bit sad like halfway through. It just felt like he's going through the motions. But in terms of if you're a Nate Diaz fan, get that bag, dog. Good for you. Who cares? And they're thinking about fighting again in MMA. Maybe get paid another 10 or something to fight him in MMA. Great. How could this be considered bad for anybody?
So Conor versus Chandler is a possibility for sometime this year, potentially.
Yeah, well, I'll leave you with this last piece here, that Conor's really good at just staying on top of the flavor du jour, right? So like Charles Oliveira wins the title and it's like, I'll fight Charles, and everyone's down with it. They're dude, holy shit, man, Conor McGregor versus Charles Oliveira, sign me up. And then Dustin Poirier could win a big fight, and then it'll be like, oh, I want to fight P-Head again. His wife's in my DMs. And it's like, oh shit, dude, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier again. And then Justin Gaethje just puts on this hella performance, dude, hella performance. And it's like, he tweets out, he's like, everybody knows it should be me and you, Gaethje. You want to call your shot or what, dog? It's like, are you not fighting Chandler? And the only reason, for the record, the only reason he's fighting Chandler is because Michael Chandler fought Tony Ferguson and he front kicks him in the face and folds him. And Conor McGregor just tweets out like, me and you, Chandler, you earned it. He does this to everybody. Everybody. If you win a fight and he happens to be watching, that's my next guy. So I wouldn't feel good if I was Michael Chandler at all, because similar to a small dog, like his attention span's just not there, man. He's a little chihuahua. You know, he's like Scrappy Doo, not Scooby Doo. Scrappy Doo just wants to fight everything. Doesn't really want to fight anything. So make it worth his while. Bring enough Scooby snacks to the table. The fight will happen. The fact that they're coaching the Ultimate Fighter would suggest this fight's close-ish to happening. Probably happens. But at the same time, man, if somebody wins between now and then in December and looks decent doing it, he's probably gonna take that. Can't box without the UFC's consent. Can't bare knuckle box, obviously, without the UFC's consent. So like, if he's gonna fight, it'll be an MMA fight. It's up to the UFC to determine what's their biggest thing. He could get potentially beaten the shit out of by Michael Chandler, and we can make X amount of money, or he can make the exact same amount of money. X amount of money will also draw to fight Tony Ferguson, and Tony's whack job talks all types of crap, and Conor's whack job talks all types of crap. It's gonna sell, and it's a way more favorable fight for Conor McGregor. And if he wins, we can sell more of these fights. He gets smoked by Chandler. We can't sell shit. It's like, why is that the fight that they would want to make? Couldn't tell you. And Chandler's also not young. Like, oh, if he beats McGregor, we'll use him to sell stuff. Nah, he's kind of at the tail end of his career as well. So dangerous. But the UFC is the ultimate marketing machine, and they're the number one promotion for a reason. So whatever they want to do, I'm sure they've got it figured out.
Yeah, just it doesn't seem like the biggest money fight. Like you said, rolling it over forward doesn't make a ton of sense. We'll see what ends up happening there. They'd be better off just letting him fight Jake Paul and taking a cut of Conor's profits.
I would assume so. Yeah. Or, I mean, yeah, exactly. 100%. Just book those kind of fights. He even says to himself, oh, Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg would do $1 billion. He's not wrong. It would be like the biggest fight in the history of fights. And they're both non-fighters. They're just a couple of billionaires who are eccentric, who run social media companies. Therefore, their names are just all over the place all the time. Therefore, everybody knows them. Therefore, it sells. It's all the marketing. It doesn't matter who the fighter is. You mentioned earlier, we talked about replacements. You know, golf. People tune into golf to see good golfers golf. They want to actually see the best golfers golf. Football, you want to see the best guys. That's the lie. People love watching college ball, and I suppose those guys, in the grand scheme of things, are just not really good. But yeah, fighting falls into the college sports category. Like, I don't think people really care if it's a really good fight or a really bad fight. They just want to see a fight. And you see every week, right? It's this crazy, drag them out, sloppy, greasy, terrible technique, but a fun fight. And people are like, oh, dude, fight of the year, fight of the night. But what was all that technical about it? Well, it was just a good fight, right? And I think that's what they're looking at. Oh, it's a good fight. These are the last headliners for the UFC results. Okay, so last week you got Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. 5-round main event, high-level guys, grapple fest. Both guys try to initiate the grappling. Both guys grapple on each other. The fight came down to who was grappling, who was in a favorable position more often than not. Not a great fight, but tons of grappling. Right before that in Nashville, it's Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font, right? It was 25 minutes of holding him down. It was all grappling. Holly Holm versus Bueno Silva. That's what it was going to be before that little ninja choke, right? Then you got your Justin Poirier, Justin Gaethjes. You got your Tom Aspinalls. You got your guys that are capable of going out there and performing and winning. But at the highest level, it's a lot of grappling. And so, I don't know, does grappling sell? Are people into that?
No.
No is the bottom line. So
it's just the same way that they're not into amateur wrestling.
Yeah. Amateur wrestling is actually super fun to watch, but you're right. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. And it's just not, it's like jiu-jitsu. I know some people like it. I get it, but it's a reason why it's like 0.1% of the market, because it's just not everybody is into it.
Who do you have in Zuck versus Elon? I'm looking at their height and weight right now. I kind of really hope this happens. I don't know why I'd be weirdly excited for it. To your point, like, it's just a spectacle. I think that's the one good thing about, be it MMA, be it boxing, like, a fight's a fight. And if you can just see people that have your interest in who they're fighting, then it really doesn't matter. You're going to be there. Whether it's good or bad is kind of irrelevant at that point.
If you were watching John Jones versus, I don't give a shit, whoever the next best guy was at 205 or heavyweight, doesn't matter. We got John Jones in the ring. We got Khabib in the ring. We got George in the ring. We got any of those guys in the ring, okay? And two drunk guys in section 327, just right over from you, start to fight. What are you going to watch? You're going to watch this title fight in the main event? You're going to watch the two drunk guys. Of course you're going to watch the two drunk guys. It doesn't matter the level, right? It's just that both guys are getting in there, doing the damn thing. So that's what I see 100%. If it's just a fight that sells, it doesn't matter what the technique is. If it sells and there's interest, people will watch it. If Zuckerberg versus Elon doesn't happen, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because Elon's banged up, way older, weight classes. I mean, sure, he's the bigger man, but I think he gets absolutely crushed by Zuckerberg.
Okay, let's say he's out. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg's basically like a lower body fat percentage me. He's 5'8", 154.
Have you seen him without a shirt?
Yeah, he's ripped. Like, he's low body percentage. Like, if he had my body fat percentage, he'd be the same as me. He'd be 5'8", 165, but he's 10 pounds lighter than me, in better shape. It says that Elon is 6'1", 165. There is zero chance that guy weighs 165 pounds. He looks like he's like 230.
He's like 230. He's built like Donald Trump, man. He's like a 1950s fridge. And, big upper body, big thick dude. But yeah, he's a lot older. He's got a ton of injuries. One guy trains, the other guy doesn't. All I'm saying, though, is like Dana's saying that's the biggest fight that could be put together. And it's bigger than any UFC fight. These guys work their entire lives. Nobody cares. You could just throw Zuckerberg and Elon and it would sell even more. Let's say Elon can't fight. And they said, oh, Zuckerberg's going to fight Kanye West instead. You don't think that sells, Pat? Of course it does. Anyways, though, I got to hit the run, and we got 3 fights left. So I'm just going to give you a quick rapid fire shot, the PRP. We call it a day.
Okay, hold on a second. Brad Katona, we don't know his opponent as of this recording. So maybe you can tweet out who you like as the winner of that when it gets released.
Yeah, I would say Brad Katona either way. Like, he's either going to fight Cody Gibson, who's fighting Rico DeSolio. I would say Cody Gibson wins that fight if all things were fair, but he blew out his knee on the show, so he's fighting super compromised. Maybe Rico pulls something out, but Cody Gibson's the better fighter. And then if either guy fights Katona in the finals, Katona wins. Decision, probably competitive. Katona will be a big, little too big of a favorite, but he's talented. He wins. Andre Petroski probably just knocks out Gerald Meerschaert. He's a much better wrestler. If the fight hits the ground, I think he stays out of harm's way. He's very physically strong. Meerschaert doesn't got a great chin. Coming off that last knockout loss, I think he's compromised. Petroski probably bowls him over. Good live betting spot, though, because, again, Meerschaert's been known to pull off upsets the later the fight goes. Petroski, gas tank, still an issue for him, but physically is strong, probably runs right through him. Andrea Lee versus Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva looks like the complete package. She's got good striking, fast hands. She's winning fights. She's looking consistently a lot better. I think she pieces up Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee will look to wrestle a lot more in this fight. That's just not who she is at her best. She's starting to slow down a little bit. Cardio hasn't been as good as it has been, and her training situation's a little bit wonky. So I would think Natalia Silva, big favorite, women's MMA. I would say don't do it. I would take Natalia Silva. And then Marina Moroz versus Karine Silva. I think I would take the flyer plus money on Marina Moroz. Super inactive, but an excellent boxer. Excellent boxer. She misses a whole lot of punch, but it's a high work rate. High work rate of hitting air, left, right, left, right, left, right, air. Takedown defense, not terrible. Trains on American Top Team, and she's got a knack of just going the distance, keeping it competitive, and beating these unproven prospects. Karine Silva, she looks badass, but she's also had bad spots in her career. Her fight on the Contender Series, it's a come-from-behind win against Yan Kui-hee, the Chinese fighter. Bad spot. Her fight with Poliana Botello smokes her out of there. Ketlin Vieira smokes her out of there. Quick submissions. If she doesn't get that quick submission, she'll slow, she'll fatigue. Moroz might have a striking advantage. Enough for me to jump on her and pick her. This card, again, favorite heavy, but we're going to go with Aljamain Sterling, Zhang Weili, Garry Machado, Mario Bautista, Pedro Munhoz, dog number 1, Chris Weidman, dog number 2, Gregory Rodrigues, Andrea Petroski, Natalia Silva, Marine Moroz is dog number 3, Kurt Holobaugh, dog number 4, Brad Katona, once he gets announced, he'll be the favorite.
All right. That was the PRP. You can follow Cody on Twitter at CJ Saftic in case he makes any sort of amendments to any of that stuff. Once again, go to prizepicks.com and use code DOP to get a deposit match of up to $100, or just handily click on the link that's down in the description. What do you make of these ones? These are the 3 that I'm going to roll with here. Brad Tavares more than 11 minutes total in that fight. Gregory Rodrigues more than 5. I see the second round to start, more than 5 minutes. And Ian Garry less than 57.5 significant strikes. $200 pays $1,000 is what I'm going to go with. What do you think?
Yeah, I like all of those. And you mentioned earlier on the show, I think it was the Aljamain Sterling 3 takedowns. I would take the over on that as well.
Oh, we might as well just throw that one on there too, huh?
That's it.
Sterling, more takedowns. Well, now $200 pays $2,000.
Oh, shit.
There. Double my money on Prize Picks. 200 to 2,000. Do I want to do a flex play? No, I don't want to do a flex play. I want to do a power play. I need to get all of them correct. Remember to rate and review the Dogger Pass podcast, by the way. If you have never done that on the audio podcast, that is a way that you can help out this show for free. Cody and Paul provide you endless entertainment week after week, and sometimes they have to go away for a little bit, and I have to step in to try to help out. So hopefully it wasn't too big of a drop-off, especially for a pay-per-view card. If you want football action, betting action, whatever it may be, check out the Mayo Media Network, sub to that where you're watching this, or the Pat Mayo Experience Audio Pat Podcast. For Cody, I'm Pat. We'll see you next time.
Oh, oh, oh. Oh.